I will be brief, I have only 6 slides, and I will provide you with some data just to have a picture of what's going on in Italy on migration, but I will close with some, how to say, probably political consideration on the lesson learned from Italy and lesson learned that we can have, from my point of view, for a wider perspective on migration management. Let me say that my general perspective is, I'm not a demographer, my general perspective is mobility. Mobility as the key point to understand the new millennium. Mobility of people, goods, information. And in this perspective, the big question is that against mobility, we have a very conservative humankind. So the problem is that we have people moving, of course, but we do not have, in the same way, moving the cognitive model we have to make an interpretation of reality. And this makes some misunderstanding, I don't know, but at least some problem in address the issue arising in a wider perspective from mobility of people, ideas, goods, and information, and everything. But then I'm starting from some data on the Italian case. And there is something new going up. Those are quite new data that you will read in a couple of months in the ISMU report on migration in Italy that will be published as usual in English and we will bring to compare in the next conference. Let me say that foreign immigration to Italy seems set to mark time after years of frantic growth. The latest data on the arrivals of citizens from outside the European Union during 2011 show a decline of about 40% relative to a year earlier. This marked decline is especially noticeable in the case of arrival for employment reason, down 65%, and is likely caused by the recent economic and employment difficulties. However, it is considerable also in the case of family-related immigration, that is minus 21% compared with the previous data. The years during which 500,000 new foreigners were usually counted seems to have come to an abrupt end, with a modest increase of 69,000 recorded in 2010. Having said this, it can be estimated by combining the information from several official sources that the foreign population present in Italy as at January 4th, 2012, can be quantified at 5.4 millions. About 90% of this population has its habitual residence in an Italian municipality. Foreigners with non-legal status are down to 6% of the total. This is the lowest level ever observed and is certainly not unrelated to the climate of crisis. Their number, non-legal, is estimated at 326,000 people. It means 117,000 less than in 2010. Those who regularly live in Italy without being recorded in population register are 245,000 now. Overall, the estimate to January 4th, 2012 mark a new collapse in the growth of foreign presence. decreasing from the already modest plus 69,000 recorded in 2010 to a historical minimum, January 1st, 2012, of 27,000, equal to a modest rate of growth of 5%. So really something is changing in the Italian migrants population. Taking this into account, the overall estimate of the foreigners present in Italy at January 1st, 2012 could fall from the 5.4 million to 5 million. Okay. So instead of increase, at least we are decreasing, and now around 5 million. This readjustment is consistent with the opinion according to which the effect of the economic crisis, in addition to slowing down the new immigrant flows, may also have favored a certain number of returns to the countries of origin or of transfer to new international destinations. In this regard, it is interesting to observe some ISMU research that we did last year, where we recorded a non-negligible incidence of plan to return or to move abroad for the 2012. About 1 immigrant in 10 expressed such intention. 5.4% of the immigrants say to return home in 2012, and 5.1% say to move elsewhere from Italy. In conclusion, although it is premature to state that a cycle has ended and a permanent shift is underway towards an immigration model less, let me say, adventurous, and more the result of mature and conscious life plans, it is undeniable that the pause for thought that we are experiencing can contribute to mitigate some problems in the Italian immigration scene. The legal status presence continues to maintain a prominent role in Italy, in terms of both numbers and of dynamism. In quantitative terms, the number of foreigners having legal status in January 2012 is, as I already said, 2.1 million. It is estimated that 1.5 million are citizens of a country member of the European Union, and 3.6 million are from outside European Union. Romanians are more or less 1 million, Poles about 100,000. Among people from outside the European Union, we have the Moroccans and the Albanians, both around 500,000, followed by the Chinese, 300,000, Ukrainians about 220,000, and Filipinos, 150. More or less, it didn't change the composition of the people coming from different countries, but really changed the numbers of people coming. This trend was accompanied by an increase in the proportion of women and in the share of minors, who moved from 21% in 2011 to 34% a year later. With regard to the latter, it should also be recalled that the presence of minors from outside the EU born in our country grows steadily. According to the 2012 data, the Italians by birth, albeit still foreigners, remember, are by now 500,000 and represent a proportion of about 60% of the total of the foreign minors in Italy. with the peaks of 70–75% for the Chinese and Filipino communities. With regard to the location of foreigners from outside the EU having legal status in Italy, as usual, the highest density is found in the north of Italy, with a regional peak of 10 citizens from outside the EU for each 100 residents in Emilia-Romagna. At the provincial level, the highest value, between 12 and 15% of the total residents, are found in the provinces of Prato, Tuscany, Reggio Emilia, that is Emilia-Romagna, Brescia, and Manta, that is Lombardia, the usual geographical distribution. And again, we have many nationalities, but only 8 nationalities account for the 50% of the arrivals, both for men and women. We have 4 countries for both sexes: Morocco, China, India, and Albania. Men and women coming from all these countries. We have countries from which male are flowing: Tunisia, Bangladesh, Egypt, and Pakistan. And we have countries from where mainly female are flowing, like Ukraine, Moldova, United States, and Philippines. So that's the picture of Italy. Again, we are not used to this kind of Italy in some ways. It is a new trend. So try to have a look to the future. The slower growth recorded during the last 2 years, on the one hand, justify the hypothesis of a less turbulent future, but on the other hand, does not question the image of a country increasingly populated by foreign nationals and by new citizens having immigration experience. Oh no, sorry, in this regard, the most recent estimates from official sources project an increase of about 6 million foreign residents at national level between 2012 to 2041, with the total proportion relative to all residents growing from the current 8% today up to 18% of foreigners resident in 2041. This gain would over time exceed the net contribution of the natural population change, set at a stable of 100,000 people per year. They would contribute to lowering the numerical growth of the residents, which tends to fall gradually to slightly more than 150,000 persons per year. Try to focus some problem or some cliché, let me say, about migration. The undisputed expediency of foreigners presents rests on 2 axioms, which focus on 2 fundamental aspects characterizing the Italian society of our age: the demographic issue, with particular stress on generational turnover, and the changes occurred in the structure by age of the population and their repercussion on labor offer and welfare sustainability. Starting from the heavily emphasized view of the foreign population as an antidote to the age-old problem of empty cradles, we need to immediately make clear that the belief that the low fertility rates of the Italian population can be countered only by foreign women's contribution is merely deceitful and counterproductive. Available data prove indeed that migrant women's adaptation process to the reproductive model of the host society is proceeding rapidly. Only in 2006, the average value of foreign women's fertility rate was estimated to the total of 2.5 children per woman. In the subsequent year, it decreased to 2.4 and then to 2.1. Finally, in 2009, to 2 children for women. On the other hand, low fertility rates have no nationality when we have to share the well-known difficulties we encounter in bringing up a family, especially in a large metropolitan context. It is no coincidence that in Milan, as well as in Palermo, foreign women express in the 2006-2009 3 years period an average fertility rate of about 1.5 children, and even lower, for example, in Genoa, 1.4, Florence, 1.4, Naples, 1.2, and Roma also. Their adaptation, the adaptation of foreign women to the Italian reproduction model is therefore a progressive and accelerated process where the conditions are particularly hard for the couples. Limiting fertility rate is consequently a defensive strategy put into effect by foreign couples to a scene of their integration, we say, in the host society. At the same time, an important process of structural change of the resident foreign population would also occur over the next 30 years. This is the demographic maturing process, which is eloquently demonstrated by the increase of the median age from the current 31 and 32 years for men and women, respectively to 35 from 31 and 40 from 32 in 2040. In detail, you can see the forecast scenario between 2012 and 2041 include an increase of 130% of all resident foreigners, an increase of 118 for minors, 54% for young adults, 1844, 220 for the 45-64 years old category, but 1,200 for people over 65 in the next 30 years. It is in the light of these dynamics, the change from slightly more than 100,000 older people to over 1.6 million older people, that there is room for reflecting on the magnitude of the imported aging and of its potential effect on our social security system. Okay, so we have 2 minutes to close. I go to 2 minutes, the last, some reflection. This is the problematic aging structure of Italy and what's going on in Italy. But I want to become a little bit broader starting from this point, because I think that migration gives us challenges and give us a lesson learned to move to a different conceptualization of the world, not only of migration. If we do not look at migration as a characters of the next millennium, of this year, we cannot manage migration, not taking care of the change of the global world we are living. We have a politic paradox. Our friends wrote clearly from Oxford, for example, a policy paradox. Despite the political rhetoric on enforcement action against irregular migrants, despite the cut breaks in public services, governments continue to provide a range of public services to irregular migrants, and in the future to the oldest migrants. That's a key point, and we see that we will get this problem in a very concrete way. So we have inside a different perspective, that is one to consider the rights, the individual rights of people in a moving world of people. But migrants give us other suggestions, and I want to stress the idea of citizenship we have completely to reconsider citizenship, starting from the theoretical approach, the traditional theoretical approach of international relation. It is not more possible, that is the problem to manage citizenship for migrants, to link citizenship, from my point of view, to the idea of territory, as political science still has to do. Migrants stress that citizenship has nothing to do with territory. The internet stress, I'm going to close, that new identities and new citizenship is growing up in a virtual way. We have to change our mind. And we are starting from migrants to bring into political sciences the idea that citizenship is something that needs to be refounded on a different paradigm. And the last one, migrants are bringing in different cultures. And we see the mistakes we did managing the global world, bringing our culture out of Europe. The clear example is most of the migrants is bringing in tribalism as a key point of their culture. And our response is not to accept tribalism in Europe, and I can accept, but better try to export democracy where tribalism is a matter of culture. The problem, again, from a political point of sight, is how can we bring tribalism as a legitimate way of government of a global world, together with democracy and other possibility to manage the world. Mobility and migrants are really only the make visible mobility. Migrants make mobility visible in the world, but they are pushing up to a different position toward the world. We will be able to manage migrant flow if we change our paradigm to look at reality and to use, and now we can bring the migration government lesson learned from Metropolis to a wider new point, to change the anthropological view of the world that we need at this point to go out from 2012.